Have you ever gone down into your basement and noticed those weird bubbles on the drywall? Or maybe some peeling paint or swollen spots? You probably asked yourself, what is going on? Is it bad paint? Is it just humidity? Well, today we're going to peel back the layers on this super common problem and find out what's really happening.
So, does this look a little too familiar? Yeah, I'm talking about that bubbling right near the floor, or that one patch of paint that just refuses to stay flat, no matter how many times you try to fix it. This is probably one of the most common complaints people have about their basements, and believe me, it's a sign of something much bigger than just a cosmetic issue. And here's the absolute key to the whole thing. The bubbling paint, the warped drywall, that's not the problem. It's just the symptom. Think of it like a fever, right? A fever tells you you're sick, but it's not the actual illness. The real issue is happening behind the scenes, deep inside your walls.
Okay, so before we get to the real cause, let's play detective for a minute. We're going to investigate the usual suspects, the things that always get the blame but are actually, believe it or not, totally innocent.
It's so easy to look at that and think, it's just old paint finally giving up. But the reality? That paint is the first victim of moisture that's sneaking in from behind. And while you might blame the general dampness of a basement, the real issue isn't the air in the room. It's a much bigger deal. It's moisture that has gotten trapped inside the wall cavity itself.
And this is exactly why a quick fix is never going to work. I mean, sure, slapping on a fresh coat of paint will hide the bubble for a little while. But since that moisture is still trapped back there, it's only a matter of time before it pushes that new paint right off the wall. You're basically just putting a Band-Aid on a leaky pipe. You're covering up the evidence, not solving the crime. So, what is physically happening here? Well, drywall is basically a sandwich. You've got this core of gypsum plaster, and it's pressed between two sheets of paper. It's really strong when it's dry, and this is key, it was never designed to handle water. So when moisture seeps in from the back, it soaks that paper layer, and the paper literally separates from the gypsum core. That separation, that's the bubble you see.
All right, we've busted the myths. Now it's time to follow the trail and unmask the real intruder here. Let's track how this destructive moisture is actually getting into your walls in the first place.
You know, moisture is so sneaky. It doesn't usually announce itself with a big puddle. It finds these tiny, almost invisible ways to get in. A little hairline crack in the foundation, some old, failing caulking around a window, or even a super slow, hidden drip from a pipe. All of these are basically secret highways for water to get right inside your walls. So you can see the chain of events pretty clearly. First, the moisture gets in. Then, since basements don't have great airflow, it gets trapped. The back of the drywall acts like a sponge, soaking it all up until that paper layer fails. And then finally, weeks, sometimes even months later, that bubble appears on your side of the wall. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. That bubble is not a new problem. It is the end result of an issue that's been going on for a long, long time. By the time you actually notice it, that moisture has had plenty of time to damage insulation, weaken the wood studs, and create the perfect environment for mold to grow.
Okay, enough about the problem. Let's talk solutions. How do we actually solve this thing for good? Well, as you might have guessed by now, the key is to stop focusing on the cosmetic damage on the surface and start focusing on the root cause of the moisture.
Look, there are really two ways to tackle this. You've got the bandage fix, which is what we're all tempted to do. You sand it, you patch it, you paint it, and you hope for the best. But that just starts the whole cycle over again. The real cure is a process. You find the source of the leak, you fix that underlying issue, and only then, once everything is totally dry, do you even think about repairing the wall. Professionals follow a very clear four-step plan. First, they inspect to figure out exactly where that water is coming from. Then, they repair the actual problem. Sealing the crack, fixing the pipe. Step 3 is all about controlling the environment to prevent it from happening again. And then, as the very last step, they restore the wall, usually using mold-resistant drywall for some extra protection.
And this is where that professional expertise really matters. A pro is going to see clues you would probably miss. That little bit of discoloration, it could point to a major foundation issue. They also use tools like moisture meters that can literally detect dampness inside the wall that feels perfectly dry to your touch. That's how you know the problem is truly solved before you rebuild.
So, once the problem's fixed, how do you make sure you don't have to go through this whole mess again? Let's talk about prevention, because an ounce of it is worth a pound of cure and a whole lot of new drywall.
The good news is that prevention is actually pretty straightforward. Simple things like running a dehumidifier to control the humidity, making sure you have good airflow, doing a quick walk around every year to check for cracks. These can make a huge difference. And always, always trust your nose. That musty smell is often the very first warning sign of a moisture problem.
Ultimately, it really just comes down to this. Catching a small bubble or a little patch of peeling paint and investigating it right away is so much easier and cheaper than waiting until half your wall is ruined. You've just got to be proactive.
So, the next time you see a flaw on your basement wall, don't just see it as another annoying repair job. See it for what it really is. It's your house trying to tell you something important. The only question is, are you listening?